All right, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about slope-intercept form. And so we're going to look at the equation for slope-intercept form, and we're going to pull it apart, we're going to put it back together, and then finally we're going to actually graph equations in slope-intercept form. So go ahead and write down your goal, and let's go ahead and get started by looking at the actual equation. All right, so, oops, I'm sorry about that. So here we have the equation for slope-intercept form. And it's called y equals mx plus b. And you're going to hear that repeated over and over and over again. Y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. And so it's just going to be a part of your everyday vocabulary from here on out. Now the y is going to stand for the y coordinate. The m you're already familiar with. So the m is your slope. The x is going to be the x-coordinate from the problem, and the b is the y-intercept. And this is going to be the really new part here for you. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this and break it down for you. So what is the y-intercept? So the y-intercept, and make sure you say intercept with a pt at the end. It's not intersect, okay, but it's intercept. So the intercept is where the line hits the y-axis. So it's always going to be where that line literally hits the y-axis. So in this line right here, the y-intercept would be 2, okay, positive 2. Now, if the line hit the y-axis right here, the y-intercept would be negative 3. All right, and so the y-intercept, it's not really a hard concept at all. It's just literally where the line hits the y-axis. All right, so what I want to do is start off pretty small here, and I have the formula with the breakdown and all that right up here at the top of each slide. Is I've given you a formula with some information here, and all I want to do is I want to pull out the slope, which is m, and the y-intercept, okay? Now, I've written out y-intercept, but really what this is this is b equals, because that's what it is in the formula up here. Okay, so if we look at this y equals negative 3x plus 1, the slope is going to be right here in the formula, okay, because the m is right in front of the x. So m equals negative 3, and the y-intercept, okay, that's going to be at the end, and that's going to be positive 1. So b is 1. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So here, there's nothing in front of the x, and so we know that the invisible number in front of the x is always 1. So our slope is 1. And this time, our y-intercept, so our b equals, it's a negative number, so it's negative 8. All right, now our slope this time is going to be 2. So m is 2. And our y-intercept here is going to be negative 4. So b equals negative 4. And so remember, keep in mind that as you're looking at this, we're not just writing numbers. So the slope of this line is 2, and remember, slope is the steepness of the line. So we're really starting to put this together. And where it's going to hit the y-axis is going to be at negative 4. So we're really actually constructing the line today. All right, so here our slope is going to be 1/2, positive 1/2, and where it's going to hit the y-axis is at positive 9. So our b equals positive 9. All right, so here our slope is negative 5/4. And here our y-intercept is negative 1/2. Now here, our slope, remember, so the slope is always in front of the x, is 5, positive 5, but there's no b. And so our b equals, our y-intercept is 0. And that's because there's no reason to write plus 0. So where this would cross the y-axis would be at 0, okay? So if we had a coordinate plane here, it would cross right here at 0. All right, now we're going to go the opposite way. So now I'm going to give you the slope and the y-intercept, and we're going to construct this formula right here. So we're always going to start off with y equals, then we have our slope, 6, then we have our x-coordinate, and our y-intercept is positive 2, so plus 2. And there's our formula. Let's do our next one. Y equals, because that's our y-coordinate, then we have our slope is negative 3, then x for our x-coordinate, and our y-intercept is negative 7, so minus 7. All right, next one, y equals for our y-coordinate. Okay, now our slope is 1, so we can put 1x or we can just put x. And then we could put plus 0 or we could just leave it alone. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways we can write this. The cleanest way we can write it is y equals x. But you can also write it y equals 1x. You can also write it y equals x plus 0. And you can write it y equals 1x plus 0. All of those are acceptable, but I would say the absolute cleanest way to write it would be this one right here, okay? All right, so here we have y equals, now our slope is 17, then our x-coordinate, and then here we have negative 1/2 as our y-intercept, so minus 1/2. All right, y equals, so negative 7 over 2x, then plus 9 as our y-intercept. It's not too bad. All right, y equals, so 3 over 5, x, and then minus 4 as our y-intercept. And all we're doing is following this formula right up here. All right, now that we have the basics down, we're able to pull out the slope and the y-intercept, and we're able to put it back in. Now let's talk about how to actually graph it, okay? So step 1 is we know where the y-intercept is by this point. So we're going to first put a dot on the graph where the y-intercept is, okay? Step 2, we're going to look at the slope and we're going to use rise over run to plot that out. And then step 3, we're going to use a ruler to draw a straight line connecting the y-intercept with the slope. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like here. All right, so step 1 is I'm going to look at my y-intercept, which is 1, and I'm going to plot it. And remember, your y-intercept is always on your y-axis. Then I'm going to go to my slope, which is 2. Now, really, that's 2 over 1, okay? So that means, and they're both positive, so I'm going to rise 1, 2, and go over 1. So my next point is there. Then I'm going to rise 1, 2, and go over 1. And I'm just going to do that maybe 3 times. So 1, 2, over 1. Then I'm going to get a ruler, okay? And I don't really have a ruler on here, but I'm going to get a ruler and I'm going to draw a straight line connecting them, okay? And let me see if I have some arrows here. Let's see if I can get some. There we go. All right, so, oops. Let me see if I can. Good. Okay, so there we go. There is my line. And that's it. So let's try the next one. Okay, so my y-intercept is negative 5. So I'm down here at negative 5. Now my slope is 4, which is 4 over 1. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. I'm going to do that a couple times, so make sure I have a super straight line. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. Then you get your ruler, and I'll get my little line tool here. And we are going to draw a straight line. And there is our line that we just graphed. All right, next one. So here our y-intercept is positive 2. So we have positive 2. And our slope is 1/2, which means we're going to rise 1 and run 2. So up 1, rise 2. Up 1, rise 2. Up 1, rise 2. Okay, and like I said, just give yourself about 3 of them or so. Enough so you can get a really straight line. Oops, that is not what I meant to do. And then you'll get your ruler. And it's not working for me. Let's see. Come on. No, it doesn't want to do it for me. Just wants to give me one arrow, but we should have another arrow on the other side. So I'll draw another arrow. There we go. All right, next one. So here we go. So our y-intercept is positive 2. And our slope is negative 3 over 4. So I'm going to go down 3 to the right 4. Okay? So down 1, 2, 3 to the right 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then go ahead and make your line. Man, this thing really doesn't want to work for me now. Oops. And there is our line. Make sure you got an arrow on both ends. Because it is a line, it will continue infinitely. All right, next one. Now, what is our y-intercept on this one? It's going to be plus 0, okay? So when it's not there, it's plus 0. So it's going to be here at 0, okay? Then our slope is 3, which is over 1. So we're going to rise 3 to the right 1. So up 1, 2, 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3 over 1. 1, 2, 3 over 1, and that should be good enough. All right, and we'll get our line there. And make sure you're pausing the video because you'll probably need more time to plot your lines too. All right, next one. Now here again, it does not give us our y-intercept, so I'm going to add plus 0 onto the end. So here I have my 0. Now, our slope is right here, but it's kind of hidden. There is a negative, but I need to add a 1 there. So it's negative 1 over 1. So I'm going to go down 1 to the right 1. So down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1, down 1 to the right 1. And I can keep going forever, but that's probably enough for now. And there is my line. All right, and then we have our next one. Now, if you notice here, there is no y-intercept, but there's also no x-coordinate. That means that there is no slope. So if there's no x-coordinate, there's no slope. which should signal to you that we either have a vertical line or we have a horizontal line. Now, in this case, it says y equals 2. So we're going to be on the y-axis, which is right here. So you're going to find 2, which is right here, and it is strictly going to be a horizontal line on the y-axis, okay? And that's all we're going to have is a horizontal line on the y-axis. Because there's no x after it, which means that I have no slope, okay? And there's no y, so we're not going to add a y-intercept to it. Now, we have this one here, which is x equals -5. Again, I have no variable attached to it, so I have, no slope there. Now, since this is x equals -5, I'm going to be on the x-axis this time. So this is the, this is the x-axis. So I'm going to find -5, which is right here. And just like last time, I'm going to draw, this time though, a vertical line. And you know that that slope is undefined. But in this case, I'm just asking you to graph it. I'm not asking you to define a slope for me. All right, that is the end of this lesson. We will have some more fun graphing lines in class.